Incorrect.
Yeah, incorrect. No. One more time.
What was that?
You were not Jim Marcus.
I'm not?
No.
Why, who am I?
I don't know. Who are you?
No, I am.
Your name's actually Steve.
No, I'm Jim. I think I'm Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. That's good.
GoFight was founded just over a year ago. What brought the band together?
We'd already been playing together as De Warsaw.
Right.
Before we had broken up. And the other ex-member from De Warsaw, my friend Van, who's like a brother to me, decided he wants to do something a little different. He wants to move in a different direction. We'd been playing together, and we really kind of wanted to stay playing together and doing what we were doing. We had kind of a different direction, and I was just really hoping these guys would want to come with and do that, and they did.
Now, GoFight's music is described as the gnarliest electro scuzz on its Facebook page. Can you explain what that label means?
We should have my wife, because she invented the term.
Yeah, she did.
That was her term.
Well, she took off, so.
Yes.
She was in the hammock.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. It's always remarkable to me that there aren't as many different types of genres of music as there are people who are actually playing.
Right.
You know, as there are bands. And I think it was important to us to make sure that we didn't fall into a genre and feel comfortable sticking in one. So we invented one of our own. So we have no necessarily precise idea of what electro scuzz either, but it's hopefully supposed to keep us from doing something we've heard before.
Right. Okay. So it pretty much keeps you from being limited sonically.
And hopefully keeps us honest.
Right.
So we don't fall back on saying, hey, I love this ChemLab record, or I love this Denser Rev record, and this is something we want to do. Keeps us honest in trying to do what we are.
That works. Now, what are some of the short-term and long-term goals you have for the band at this point?
You have some goals, right? What are your goals?
Well, finishing this record, we're almost done. We're like in the last step of it right now.
We're hoping that's a short-term goal.
Yeah. We have another video in the works. We're writing a lot more music right now, too. We're just going to keep moving things forward. We want to get on the road more. We just did a mini tour with Scintilla, which was really awesome on the East Coast. But yeah, just basically get more exposure, build up a name for ourselves more, and we're starting over again, so it's a whole new thing.
Okay.
Long-term goals, I would like not to die unhappy.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, long-term goals. We don't want the band's name to become synonymous with horrible disasters. That would be
tsunamis.
great. Yeah, like we'd
like tornadoes in Queens,
hurricanes, stuff like that. We would like to make sure that doesn't happen. You don't have a whole lot of control over that, but you try.
Right.
Long-term considerations. We would like to not be responsible for a death.
It's a respectable goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did the long-term ones. You did the short-term ones.
Checks and balances.
Yeah. So, having had so much experience with other projects throughout the years, you must surely make it a point to inject each new endeavor with a life of its own. What steps are you taking to ensure that GoFight stands on its own beneath the shadows of Die Warzo and your other previous works?
You know what was interesting? We had built a Facebook page originally for this project, not too long after it started. And we're inviting people to listen to one or two songs that we had started doing.
Right.
And we were getting some impression from people when they would send emails about what they thought the band was really about. And some people were sending emails that I thought were really remarkably dead on to what the band was really about in ways that I hadn't even really considered.
Right.
So people were sending, it's you guys are clearly anti-war, pro-sex, and I was like, well, that seems like a reasonable position.
Sure.
Anti-war, pro-sex. We're very pro-sex, very anti-war.
I think everybody should be like that.
It almost seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Killing people sucks. Having sex is fantastic.
Doing people rules.
Yeah, totally. So, in a lot of ways, a lot of people have been kind of there, helping us define who we are and what's different. I know that the fact that Vince and Dan are kind of involved in this, and they have their own unique sense of humor, is freeing in a lot of ways. I started this project too because every couple of years I feel like I get into some sort of scandal or another. And I was constantly dragging Van in Warsaw through these scandals where it was like, asking the Catholic Church to end, or, doing things with fuck saws in the middle of colleges. There was always some sort of scandal happening, and it was driving him crazy. But I kind of feel like this particular project, I can be who I am, and the next scandal that happens that I don't have to feel bad about, I can just enjoy and have a good time with. The next time we want to joke around about something, that's okay. This is a much less serious project, and it has a sense of humor that I love.
Okay. So, in your opinion, what sets GoFight apart from other current industrial projects, and what do you want fans to remember GoFight for?
I don't think we're not really industrial. Definitely there's roots.
Right.
Like there's a history and things like that. Maybe it's going back to the whole thing, the whole electrical scuzz things. We don't want to say we're one thing and, just be pigeonholed to that.
Right.
It's hard, too, because I love industrial music.
Right.
And I love what it was, I love what it was turning into, and I love what it is right now. It's like, I love Neubauten, and I love, everything that Jen does, everything, Genesis P. does. I love what it was turning into in Pigface. I love all of that. I love what the cold wave artists do. It's always so much fun. I feel like there are things we can draw on and things we can kind of grab and use when possible. Our sound is kind of unique in so much as it's very vocal heavy. I feel like we're very much into things like harmonies that aren't necessarily found in a lot of kind of industrial stuff right now. There's some disco in there. I think there's some dubstep in there. There's some electro house in there, and I feel like we have a little bit of freedom now to paint with a wider palette than might have been possible. I know as Warsaw, we were constantly getting hassled from people saying that I love this song, and this song. I hate this song, and this song.
Right.
And I get that a lot from people, and they'd hate certain songs. We did this record called Convenience, and there was a song called Permission on there, one of my favorite songs. And I would uniformly get people hating that song desperately or liking it a lot. And it was a very polarizing experience. I feel like with GoFight, we can do what we want, regardless of how polarizing. And sometimes that means writing things that we think is just, this is a great disco song that happens to be noisy and fucked up and have lyrics that you would offend your parents.
Right. Okay. Now, Jim, you have been credited as a performance artist and have made a name for yourself as a typographer. What, if any, experiences are you bringing from these other artistic mediums to GoFight?
The full-on understanding that I don't have any idea what the fuck I'm doing. I think that one of my favorite things as an artist is to get lost and to find a new medium to get lost in. And because of that, I've done a lot of different... I've worked in a lot of mediums in my life, specifically with the intent of getting lost in it. I've worked as a writer with the intent of getting in over my head and getting lost. I worked as a typographer in order to get in over my head and get lost. As a painter, as a designer, to get in over my head and get lost. And I feel like I want to get lost in this, and I want to bring that feeling of being beyond what you're actually able to do and having no idea what comes next to this. And it was hard in music because in what we were doing before, there was no lost. There was going to the studio and knowing exactly what you planned to do and what you wanted to do and hearing it in your head. And I feel like now I'm in over my head and I'm lost a little and I like it.
Okay. How do you use your musical and artistic influences differently for GoFight versus your other projects?
We all like Adam in the end.
Well, yeah, that's a good example. I mean, I feel like we're less inspired to hide things.
Yeah.
With Warsaw, I always felt like, I mean, let's face it, when I was younger, I learned how to drum from Adam and the Ants records, and I loved Adam and the Ants. I learned how to sing from his records. I learned how to be more fluid about my sexuality because of that, and feel like I could embrace being bisexual for the first time.
Sure.
Because of those records. I feel like with this particular band, some of those expressions can come out a little bit more. We've done things that we think kind of wouldn't sound off next to an Adam and the Ants record,
Right.
I feel like right now it gives us a chance to explore some of those areas a little more fluidly. Some of the disco areas a little more fluidly. Some of the more melodic areas more fluidly. You know, to throw down 30 tracks of vocals and overdubbed and harmonies and everything like that, and not feel like we are an offense to everything industrial.
Right.
But there's all these other artists that I've always loved as well, and it's weird because they cross genres constantly. You know, it's like when the Clash were doing London Calling, did they have any idea what kind of music they were making? You know,
right.
It's not like they got together and said, okay, this is exactly what we're doing. We're making this, post-punk sort of, epic paean to the construction of a new kind of pop music. You know, that's not what they were doing. They were making things they thought were great.
Right.
When they did Rock the Casbah, I don't think they got together first and said, let's first of all plan on what kind of music this is. Because I don't think they would have gotten past the first bar if they'd done that.
Right. Jim, you said that you used to not keep copies of your lyrics and that you often wanted to try on many more verses than actually made it into the finished songs. You've even been guilty of Googling your own songs to remember lyrics. And yet now you're beginning to keep electronic copies of your works in progress. How else has your songwriting process evolved to what it is with GoFight, and how do the three of you work together to create your masterpieces?
Masterpieces. It's weird. I always got the sense in Dawarsa that Van approved of political lyrics and things like that, but didn't really necessarily want to be a part of it.
Right.
I felt like he didn't express himself that way, and so I always felt like I could just write lyrics and walk into the room, and he wouldn't care what they were before they went on the record.
Sure.
Working with Dan on lyrics is really great. I think that he and I kind of bounce off each other really well. The very first song we ever did that was a song called Mona Lisa Comunista that we had done on this Borghild record. That was so much fun, and it was just us back and forth, coming up with puns about communism, and it was really just a lot of fun. And I haven't had a chance to do that since, write with somebody else lyrically, and that was a huge amount of fun. With Vince, I have a chance to actually work on rhythms with somebody else, which I never really had a chance to do either, because I was always the drummer and the singer, and now there are other outlets and there are other options. I do feel like because of that, we're less inclined to want to go outside of our group.
Right.
In the past in Dawarsa, it was always great. Here's Charles Levi to play something, and here's Chris Brennan to come in and play something, and I feel like we're less inclined to want to go outside the group because we haven't even explored everything we can do, just the three of us.
Right.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Being so involved in music, you've heard, read, and held discussions about the state of the music industry and the industrial scene. Dawarsa debuted in 1987, and things have certainly changed since then. What differences have you encountered in trying to get GoFight's music to the fans, and what are you doing to cope with those differences?
Key thing.
Yeah, I want to hear what you want to say too, but I do think that's important.
I think that's what we're trying to feel out right now. Is we just made these key USB drives,
Right.
and we have pretty much, it's like a pre-release, so it's they're technically mastered, right? It's basically all the tracks that's going to be on the full length, plus the video that we shot, and we want to interact the audience more. Where it's not just like we have songs, you check them out, or here's a video.
Right.
You can manipulate the songs, you can beat map them, use them for DJ sets. You can make your own remixes, so you're just a part of it rather than just witnessing it.
Right.
So I think, but we're still trying to find out what is working.
Yeah, you heard us sitting here talking to Jared about participatory music, and I keep wondering, how do you bring the participation of music that happens at a show or something like that, a good show, people get up on stage and they play whatever, to a record? And I keep wondering, is it some sort of application that lets someone interact with the record in a certain way? Like, I'm not sure if albums have discovery and exploration and creation inherent in them for the listener, for the person who's actually bought it and wants to interact with it, you know?
Right.
Is an album in the future, could it be an application where you load it up and you move little knobs and you decide, I want to make it more heartfelt versus I want to make it more electronic, and versus I want to make it more sexy versus I want to make it more heart and pounding, you know? Is there any sort of way to kind of to bring that sort of participation to the individual? I know that there were these questions we want to answer, but first there are all these cost of entry questions to answer. I really want to find ways to avoid pressing CDs because we don't think about this much, but they're incredibly environmentally shitty.
Oh yeah.
They're just almost entirely waste product, and it's difficult to actually escape that. You know, the printing process for itself, the amount of water it takes to make these things, the amount of plastic it takes to make these things, the amount of sheer waste they create is just bizarre. On top of which, we have licensing issues. We're trying to stay away from the RIAA. They have more out there in lawsuits than there is the gross national product of the planet, you know? And it's impossible to ignore that these people are they're in so far over their heads, they're so completely unaware of the effect that they're actually having on music buyers and music creators. The RIAA, I think, is one of the biggest threats to creativity on this planet right now.
Right.
And I feel like we also have to solve some of the problems in regards to how people collect music and how they want to collect music, you know? We're not looking to put people in charge anymore, you know? And I think that's a big mistake. So we're trying to figure out how to release stuff in the first place in the way that people want it released, in a way that puts them the most in charge of things. My perception about downloads, one perception at least, has stayed consistent for the longest time. Throughout the entirety of Del Warsaw's existence, we've never wanted to ever sue anyone for downloading or prevent anyone necessarily from downloading. We just like to think of people who buy stuff from us as our actual customers.
Right.
People who don't as not our customers, you know? I go back to this over and over again about the fact that if it doesn't feel wrong to people, there's no way we can make it wrong to people.
Right, exactly.
You know? And right now, you've seen this. If I were to go online and find a copy of Goya's Saturn Eating His Children, you know, beautiful painting, and print out a copy of my printer and put it on my wall and look at it every single day, I'm getting ostensibly the same amount of pleasure I could get from the actual piece.
Right.
Which I don't even know where the piece is at. Is it in the Louvre? It's in the Louvre or something like that.
I think
But
so.
I wouldn't have to steal it from the Louvre.
Right.
You know, because that's an expensive plane ticket to France, right?
Yeah. We need an elaborate plan, but we have been watching movies like
Yeah, we
Italian
need-
Job
yeah,
and
plan.
Ocean's 11, so it'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, that's a heist. That's a serious heist.
Right.
But I get the same kind of pleasure out of this, and it's not illegal, and it doesn't feel like it should be illegal. you
Right.
know? And is there a difference between owning a piece of music like you'd own Saturday Eating His Children, or own a print of it, versus printing it out, putting it on your wall, and looking at it, you know, listening to it, or enjoying it? Until we find a way to make this feel like what it really is to people, I think we're going to fail at trying to make any of this wrong.
Yeah.
So we're starting to hammer these things out right now. Along the way, I think we're going to make a lot of mistakes. We're going to put things out in ways that we think are kind of interesting and unique, and hopefully we are not going to piss too many people off.
That's probably a pretty good plan.
Yeah.
All right. So, historically, Jim, you are an outspoken advocate for the ideas in which you believe. For instance, you stand up for sexual education, gay rights, and anti-war positions. How do you utilize your activism with GoFight, and how does your activism enhance GoFight?
You know, it's interesting too, because it's fun for me to talk to our audience, because I feel like we are so out about everything we think that we don't end up with a lot of Paul Ryan saying, "Hey, GoFight's my favorite band." It's not going to happen.
Right.
Tom Morello never had to stand up and say, "Listen to our lyrics." I don't even feel like people need to listen to the lyrics for the most part. Many of the things that we're actually doing are so obvious, even without listening to the lyrics, that I'm not sure we're dragging in lots of people who wouldn't like what we have to say. I do think there's something really interesting about the idea of making something really catchy that challenges them in a way that they actually haven't been challenged before. You know?
Right.
Like, I would love to make something so catchy that it infects someone, while at the same time forcing them to reevaluate things, you know, lyrically. You know, and when it comes right down to it, the best thing we can do is to make sure that we're always doing things out in the open. social media, things like this give people a great chance to understand what the bands that they like are actually about. And honestly, let's face facts. You don't need to care, in every case, what the bands that you love, what they're actually about.
Right.
We do think that we have the opportunity to normalize a lot of things. Playing at gay clubs and me coming out and being openly bisexual. Dan is as well and stuff like that. Talking about who we are. That makes things easier, I think.
Right.
Being able to talk about things and sing about things, not always use the same, male-female perspectives for songs. I think that's the next step, I like to think about the fact that a lot of early black filmmakers constantly wrote about the black experience,
right,
about what it meant to be black, and gay filmmakers are doing the same thing. They wrote about what it meant to be gay. We're in a situation right now where, as artists in this second phase of the civil rights movement in regards to homosexuality,
right,
can be who we are and can write a love song between two men and let it go out there and not make a big deal out of it.
So every thing, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And everyone makes it to be a big deal.
Exactly.
So
we can
that's what the actual problem
is. It doesn't matter who fucks who.
No.
The solution is going to be what I'd love to see as a poly person too. Like, here's a great love song between three people, and here's a story telling the story about someone who happens to be gay, and it just works,
Right.
And the pronouns don't sound like they make any sense to someone who is 65 years old and was brought up in a different way. But that's okay. It's just, in this world, we normalize what should be normal.
Right. Okay. Now, as I think you mentioned, you recently played some shows with Scintilla. So how was that experience, and what benefit did it bring to GoFight?
It was great. They're good friends of ours, so that definitely was a nice thing to have. I think it was a good warm-up for us, because we come from Chicago. We didn't even, first time we played was last night.
Right.
Here. I don't know. I mean,
I've liked Scintilla for a really long time, and they opened for us for Darwarsaw before,
right?
And I every once in a while, when you're playing and some bands play with you, you get kind of personal, attached to them,
right,
in ways where you get very protective of them.
Sure.
So I know I've gotten very protective of them and their talent and what I think of them, and it's great to see them succeed, and I want to see them succeed. So giving a chance to go out there and play with them and just share some time with friends too,
right,
was really, really great for us. I feel like we're at the age right now, actually I'm at the age, you're not there yet, where if we can't do this with friends and have a really good time, it's sort of pointless.
Right.
Last night was a great example of some people that I haven't seen in a long time. I feel like if that club last night had blown up, I would have lost a lot of my favorite people in the whole world.
Right.
And it was wonderful to see them all there together in that room. I got that sense when we went on tour a little bit with Scintilla, where these are the people that we really enjoy being with. We really like them. If I'm going to hear someone every single night, at least they should be people with good songs.
Right.
And at least should be Britney's pretty voice.
Yeah. Okay. And for those who might not know, the last night you're referring to was the Cold Waves Jamie Duffy Memorial Show.
Yes.
Now, what sort of reception have you gotten from fans so far?
I think our only promotion has just been through Facebook, and it's actually been really nice. Very supportive. Yeah.
We've really done very, very little to do anything. Right now, we're just sitting there trying to write some music and have some fun with people.
Out. Yeah.
And obviously, I feel like everyone's been so kind about things, and I know that a lot of people who liked what we were doing in Darwarsaw wouldn't necessarily like this,
right?
But I think a lot of people have been really, really great, and people have grabbed onto individual songs better than I thought they would, and they've been really expressive and really wonderful. I love the messages, the private messages from people where they talk about, what a certain song means to them and how they feel about it. I feel like we get a lot of those right now, and it's really fun. It makes the beginning of this a lot more fun than I thought it was even going to be.
Right. Now, what is it that you hope that fans will get out of GoFight's music?
someone should get laid. I mean, at some point, I mean, really, people should get laid out of. I mean, good music should get you laid. I mean, I think that's the line, right?
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it.
That's how you know it's good music, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to be sitting there by yourself. You should, definitely have some sex. Beyond the having some sex part, I kind of feel like one of the things that it'd be great for me if people got is I was talking about this earlier in regards to Stevie Wonder, like Superstition.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was a kid, Sesame Street, Stevie Wonder came on Sesame Street and sang Superstition.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been like 9 minutes long that it was on there, right? But it was this amazing song, and one of the things I loved about it was this is what a great pop song can actually do. No one can listen to that song and be alone, no matter what it is. It invites everybody. Everybody is invited to that song.
Mm-hmm.
And you listen to it and you feel this connection to that guy 20,000 miles away who will love that song. And that guy who was born 30 years ago, who will love that song. And the guy who will be born 30 years from now, who will love that song.
Mm-hmm.
And the aliens that come down and eventually take the Songs in the Key of Life Stevie Wonder record and bring it back to,
Mars.
We're getting close to finding those Martians.
That's right.
Yeah, we're really close. We're almost right there.
Yeah.
So I feel like, we're not a pop band, but there's some things that we want to bring to people, which is a catchiness and a sensibility that hopefully...
We want to write songs.
Yeah, that hopefully they'll take those songs and it'll mean something to them,
Right.
Because I don't really have any interest in being completely vague and absolutely unaccessible forever and ever and ever,
Mm-hmm.
It's just fun to write songs that we think, this is a great song, and maybe it does stand next to this song and doesn't have to feel ashamed of itself.
Right. Okay. And finally, what advice would you give to other up-and-coming bands based primarily on your experience so far with GoFight?
I think number one is have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not enjoying the work, then it's going to show.
Right.
And work with people that you really want to work with. I think that's the number one thing for me is I'm working with people I love to work with,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all on the same page, and we're all in a total agreement that the second we're not having fun, then we're not going to do it.
Right.
And it's not because after a while, when you play in bands for so long, things become like a chore.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes like work.
Right.
And that's what we're aiming not to do, is keeping it where it seems fresh and exciting, and we're excited to get together to work on things. And to me, that's the most important element.
Okay.
If we're excited, then the material will show.
I think there's a place where people who play music are willing to expend effort in a place they're not. So if I could go back in time and tell all the people I grew up playing with and all people right now, take the time to pay close attention to the people who are opening up for you, to listen to what they actually have to offer. The guy who hands you a cassette tape, take the time to listen to it. Take the time to pay close attention to the people around you, and take the time it takes, because it's a little bit annoying sometimes, take the time it takes to tolerate them a little bit, and to listen to them and figure out where they're coming from. Everything good I think I've gotten in my life, at some point or another, came from music. Came from taking the time to notice people and see what they're doing and make a connection with them, And I know it's really easy to roll into town and to be your own person and to order people around and to bark orders at the sound guy and to do this and everything. But I think you're missing 99% of everything we get out of this when you do that, And you're missing the chance to see those people when you come through town the next time, and to enjoy what comes from that relationship you built.
Right.
So I think it's just take the time to tolerate these people, to figure out what makes them tick, and to connect with them.
All right.
It builds community and family.
Anything else you guys would like to add? When's the album come out?
We are not 100% sure. We are just trying to figure out if it's finished or not. We just finished putting out a USB for this particular show that was a pre-release. Right now, we're trying to configure what is actually on a record, what's on an album. We know it's not just 12 songs; it's more. Mm-hmm. So we just need to figure out what the more is.
Right.
It's very, very close though.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know how you're releasing it yet?
It's another thing worth figuring out too.
Something that enables us to constantly tell people to fuck the RIAA and not feel bad about it, no matter what. So nothing ever remotely associated with that horrific organization that is that's right now suing people I know, probably. Probably people I know. Yeah. Grandmas everywhere.
Yeah. They downloaded like one song.
Yes.
Right.
Suing grandmas everywhere. Doing that good hard work of suing grandmas.
That's right. Somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for the interview.
Thanks a lot, man. I wanted to be a gay pirate.